to the TIMFD podcast. Today is my favorite day, and this is where we learn how to make the most of each day, even when life shows up with those unexpected plot twists we didn't see coming. If this episode encourages you, would you please take a second to like, share, and comment? Now, let's find out how today can be our favorite day.
Hello, everybody. We are now in a new kind of thing that we're going to do here at the church and with the TIMFD podcast, which is we're going to talk about another political thing that we believe is important for Christians to understand and put into a Christian perspective, and that is the Save America Act. It's actually called, and let me just make sure I do this, the Safeguard America Voter Eligibility Act of 1383, which is in the Senate right now. The House passed it in February of 2026. So now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about this today. Very important. We'll get to the biblical side of this, but let's just go over the act itself. Yeah, who would like to go over that first? Just the simple act of what it is. Anybody?
Okay.
Go.
Sure. I mean, I pulled up the bill on the congressional website, and there on the summary tab, it basically says that the bill requires individuals to provide documentary proof of U.S. citizenship when registering to vote for a federal election. It prohibits states from accepting and processing an application to register to vote in a federal election unless the applicant presents documentary proof of U.S. citizenship. And it specifies which documents are acceptable to prove this.
So they need to be a citizen.
State-issued ID, passport, et cetera, those types of things that are readily and easily obtainable.
Very much so.
Yes.
So that's one thing, one part of this act.
Yes.
What's another one? We have a couple of them that are going on here.
Well, it also goes in, it goes in and makes updates and changes to the Voting Rights Act of 1993, because whenever you do something like this, it can have like snowballing or effects on previous legislation.
Correct.
So it has like strike this and add this, and so it's got a lot of just boring, almost lawyerese, legalese in it. And then there's another act that was passed more recently. I forget which one it is, but it was another voting act where it says, well, then we got to go in and make sure that everything matches.
Right.
They're
works
not
together.
Self-defeating. Yeah. So it has a lot of language about that as well.
I also know that not you need to have that photo ID, right? So and you have to prove that you're a citizen. The other one was to clean up the whole voter process because there was people that were been dead for a long time that are still on it and that kind of stuff. So you need to clean that up as well. And I know one of the things they said that it would open up the door for maybe a citizen to sue government officials who are not doing this.
Right.
That they refuse to do it, and they can be sued for that. So that kind of gives them a little incentive to actually do this bill. Now, real quick, what are the oppositions? Because this makes it seems to make sense. I know percentage-wise, you have even like over 70% of Democrats are for this kind of act to take place, and Republicans are even higher. But I mean,
when you say that, you're talking about the voting public, not the members of Congress.
Right?
No.
I'm talking about
different
talking about
there.
the people itself. The
Yes.
people itself. It's over 70% of Democrats and over 80% of Republicans.
Yes.
Some crazy number, and for some reason, most other than Fetterman, I think, are all against this, which doesn't make it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
But this is my wife who's actually calling me, and she knows I'm in a podcast right now.
Yeah, I put mine.
Hey, Tanya?
I put mine on Do Not Disturb.
I'm in a podcast right now. Nope. 2. Thank you. And that's why this is live. And I'm going to take the sound off. She would have come walking in on that. So where were we at? I'm sorry. I'm blurring out here because I just got called by my wife.
We were talking about how, in spite of all evidence to the contrary, the Democrat politicians are ignoring their own electorate to adopt an adversarial position about this legislation.
Which the legislation just seems to make sense. It
would seem to be common sense, and yet, the rhetoric.
I even have Democrat friends who may be against a lot of stuff, but the voting, they want to have that under control.
Yeah,
They
sure.
want to make sure that no one's being ripped off and we could actually trust this thing. And so I think that there's a reason for this where we have Democrat leaders who are not wanting this to happen. And one was, let's go back over the history. The last 4 years prior to this president taking over, you had President Biden, who we prayed for all the time, didn't agree with a lot what he had to do. And one of them was the border itself. And he opened up that border for now what we're running into here. I think we're running into some issues where people are wondering, this person, that person, wondering if non-citizens are voting in particular elections.
And we know from some of the studies of the voting records that have already been done that in some states illegals have been.
Yes, and that's
voting.
A problem. Yes, and then
so it's not. Well, they might. They have.
They have been, and that is a problem. And what we talked about yesterday, as we were kind of going into this, that it sure looks like it's open to a lot of cheating. You know, if we don't get this taken care of, a lot of cheating in the voting ranks, which then no one's going to have confidence in, and that would undermine this country. Right.
Yeah.
And I think there's other nations that believe that you should have this kind of things taking place, right, Randy? I know you brought up some people that are definitely for this and have been for it.
Mexico requires voter ID. You and I cannot go down to Mexico and vote in their election.
No.
But we have non-citizens that come to this country and vote in our elections.
Yes.
In certain states.
Right.
See, that's the thing. It turns out to be a red state, blue state thing because the red states have good controls in place.
It seems like. I know Florida, they do.
Yeah, Florida, we were the laughing stock of voting, years ago during that Gore-Bush election, and now we're kind of like the standard on how to have a secure and fair election.
So you went and voted today. I voted.
I did, yes.
By mail. It's probably the last time I do that. But when you went in, what was the process as you went in today?
It's very easy. There's polling centers readily available. Mine happens to be right here at Ed Radis Park, 2 miles away. Yeah. You walk in, you show your ID. Is your address still the same as the one on your ID? Yes, sir, it is. All right, here's your ballot. Go over there. You vote. They put it in the Scantron. Scan your vote, and you're out of there. It probably took me longer to drive, through
2 miles
through the park to get there than to actually vote. And
so that sounds very easy.
Yes.
Right. And but one of the things that I know you have talked about and have been frustrated with is that many of these Democrat leaders, especially in the Senate, have been saying that this is going to disenfranchise people. And can you explain that a little bit?
Well, yeah, they're making the claim that millions will be taken off of the voter rolls. Now, if they're referring to the 10 to 20 million that came across the southern border illegally,
then they should be
off of the rolls.
Right.
And where I have an issue with this, I don't believe that the Democrats are lying necessarily. I think they believe false things.
Okay.
So when they are making these claims, they're citing research. Well, I thought, that's a very good point. I believe in research and I believe in statistics. I'm going to go check this out. It turns out that places like the Brennan Law Center, Vote Riders, the Southern Poverty Law Center, are the people that are providing the Democrats
left, even
with
socialist ideas.
A very, very extreme left. Yeah. And in fact, the Brennan Law Center is substantially funded by George Soros's, Open Society Foundation.
Yes.
So right away, their numbers are highly suspect. But you never hear Schumer or Jeffries or Slotkin or any of these individuals that are ranting about how it's going to disenfranchise all these voters. I never hear any proof.
Yes.
It's all their opinion.
Right, because where's Aunt Bessie or Uncle Bob, who they're saying are not smart enough to go get an ID that they've had to have to pretty much do anything in this society.
Right.
And they're not smart enough to go. to go get whatever that ID they need to get to prove that they're a citizen of this country, to drive, to buy a lot of different things.
And if you can drive in this country, you're already using a license that is called True ID.
Yes.
And that True ID is one of the acceptable documents to prove that you're a citizen.
But those who can't,
because you had to have a birth certificate in order to get your True ID.
Right. But the idea is, well, what about those people who are not wealthy enough to have a car to drive? Well, you still need ID. Yep. Or pretty much anything you get. If you're going to rent a place, you need to have ID. We're living somewhere, right?
You can't even get on an aircraft in this country without a True ID anymore.
No. And so the idea of that someone's too stupid to actually go get an ID is disingenuous, for one. I consider it bigoted for another, especially if you're going to tie it to a group of people that have a certain skin color.
My minority friends are extremely offended by that line of logic.
Well,
that line of reasoning really deeply offends my African American friends, for instance.
Yeah. Well, and that's the sad part. The sad part is that Senator Chuck Schumer, at one point was totally for.
Oh yeah.
For that ID. And for some reason, he has switched everything around, and now he thinks it's the most horrible thing, most bigoted thing you can do to disenfranchise a bunch of people who are not legally here. He shouldn't have any worries about this, because getting people to vote who are citizens, now you know what the citizenry wants. And Chuck believes that, or Mr. Schumer believes that his views are what the citizenry wants. So why would he argue over this point? Other than, let's be honest, he's cheating.
Well,
and lying.
And it's an effort to hold on to power. Yep. Unfortunately, you do have in this country a political elite class. And they want to hold on to power. And if it means that they have to disregard their own electorate, I don't know how they think they're going to do in the midterms when they've basically told their own voters, we're not going to pay attention to you.
Yeah. And what's wild is the borders itself. Borders are biblical, which is really kind of interesting, but borders are very, very biblical. Acts 17:26. God determines borders and nations. It says, from one man he made all the nations, that they should inhabit the whole earth. And he marked out their appointed times in history, just like nations, right? And boundaries of their lands. Deuteronomy 32:8. Borders are basically set by divine purpose. When the Most High gave the nations their inheritance, when he divided all mankind, he set up boundaries for the people according to the number of sons of Israel. So even the different tribes had different boundaries and different borders that were set up right in the Bible there. Psalm 74:17. I hope I'm not boring you, but I just want to make sure you guys get this. Acknowledge the significance of established borders. That's what we're supposed to be doing. It was you who set all the boundaries, God himself on the earth. You made both summer and winter. God sets the boundaries up. Deuteronomy 19:14. Do not move your neighbor's boundary stone set up by your predecessors in the inheritance you received in the land the Lord your God is giving you to possess. It's basically saying that we're supposed to respect borders. Mm-hmm. And then our nation, not for some reason, I think, not only a legal, but also a deceptive reason, opened up the border to bring in people that were not vetted in this country, and they didn't want to really buy into what's going on in this country, and purposely tried to screw up this country because of that. So there's a biblical reason for borders. So if you worry about that, there is no worry biblically about that. Mm-hmm. Borders are biblical. It's a perspective we need to have, and we also need to be involved politically. I mean, from Joseph to Nehemiah. I mean, you got folks all over, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. You had Daniel. You had a lot of folks that were involved politically in the political structure of that time frame. And we need to be involved with it. And that's why we're even doing this podcast, because we want to be able to say, here's why we are for this SAVE Act. So let's go over that real quick. Why would you be, Randy,
Well, if I might build on, you
Go ahead,
talked about the
please.
biblical
Yes.
reason or justification for borders. I looked at it with respect to citizenry.
Oh, there we go.
And, because this is really what this is, right? Proving you're a citizen so that you may vote in an election that affects the direction of the country you are a citizen of.
Yes.
Right. That's why we're for the SAVE Act.
Yes.
And so in Acts 21 through 22, I won't read it all, but Paul's basically preaching in Jerusalem. A mob comes and gets upset, and the Roman authorities arrest him, and they take him into custody. And it says he would be examined under scourging, meaning they're going to beat the truth out of him. They were going to whip him, flog him. And Paul said to the centurion, "Is it lawful for you to scourge a man who is a Roman and uncondemned?" And then the centurion got worried, went and got his boss, a higher level, a Roman officer. And the Roman officer came to him and said, "Tell me, are you a Roman?" And Paul said, "Yes." And the commander, the higher level commander, said, "With a large sum I obtained this citizenship."
Yeah, how do you
See,
get it?
Roman citizenship had value. He had to spend a lot of money to become a Roman, and he was serving in Caesar's legions.
Yes.
And then Paul said, "I was born a citizen." So here you have a guy that did it through the legal process and another guy that was born a citizen.
Yeah.
That's all we're asking for here. Anyway, they left him alone at that point because of Roman law, you couldn't do the things they were about to do to him. And then in Philippians, it says that our citizenship is in heaven.
Yes.
And then finally, in Revelation 21, the new Jerusalem, the doors are wide open, right? But it says, "There shall by no means enter it anything that defiles or causes an abomination or a lie, but only those who are written in the Lamb's book of life."
That's right.
Okay, if you're not in the Lamb's book of life, if you're not a citizenship of his or citizen of his kingdom, you're not getting in.
No.
So, I think we can pretty well argue that proving and becoming part of something. How does one become a citizen of Jesus' kingdom?
Yes.
You respond to the gospel in a positive way, which we can share later if we like. But so I think we can biblically justify why this is okay, and why does the opposition to the act? I don't think they can sell their ideas. I don't, they believe in socialism and giveaways and things like that.
Freebie stuff that people want.
Give away free stuff, run up massive debt, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of like moral degeneracy and things like that. And they're not. I think they're losing the fight. The fact that these statistics that were shared earlier of the people that support this act, I think it shows that the U.S. is a center right country. It's not a left wing country, and so how can they maintain their handle on power, as Mark alluded to or spoke specifically to, actually? Well, then we got to figure out how to rig the elections. Basically, get a lot of people voting for us, because the people that are registered to vote and are citizens of this country probably aren't going to vote for it. Not in enough that we would have a power in a significant enough margin to affect legislation.
Correct.
And they want a permanent grip on power.
Yes.
And it also affects the census, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's go over that census real quick.
So when they do the census, our country does a census, supposed to be every 10 years. They just count bodies.
Makes no sense.
They don't count citizens. They just count physical bodies. So if you flood the country with 20 million people who are just taking up space, not to mention all the drain on finances and assets and social welfare system, which, by the way, is making a lot of the minority population in our country upset because they're sucking the life out of those programs that a lot of those people need.
Correct.
And
they're actual citizens.
And it's not just minorities. There's, white, black, yellow, brown. Everybody, uses
We're all being hurt.
Those social safety nets. Right. And all these people that are being just brought into the country to pad voting for one side are really upsetting a lot of the citizens of this country. But they're doing this to maintain power. And it's almost like Mark was saying, it's like they don't care that their constituency doesn't agree with them. They're going to do it anyway because they're smarter than us, they're better than us, whatever. They went to the right schools, they knew the right people in college, they were in the right clubs, etc. And it's just arrogance, it's pride, it's hubris, and
it's absolute sin.
And Eliza Slotkin, she just said the silent part out loud. She said the reason that we opened the southern borders and brought all those people in was to substantially, materially reshape the electorate.
Yes. Absolutely.
So she admitted,
I
that's
saw that.
why
I
we
couldn't
did
believe
it.
I
That's
couldn't
why we
believe
did it.
Yeah.
And she was straightforward
They're
about
not
it.
even hiding it anymore.
And that's illegal.
Sure it is.
And it's just morally wrong. You know, that illegal crossing, you hear folks say that, well, the people who crossed it aren't criminals, right? People who've crossed illegally. Yeah, they are. The minute they cross that border illegally,
at the very base of it,
you are
criminal.
now a person who's broken the law.
Mm-hmm.
And in James 4:17 says, so whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin. We have people in our church that are getting citizenship right now. They're going through the process now.
They're doing it the legal way.
They're doing it the legal way.
Good.
It's long. It takes some time.
And it can be costly.
And it can cost. But they're doing it legally. And you know what's funny? Anyone who's done that, I mean, we have a number of people in our church who have done that. They're the most conservative group of people. And this whole thing about what's going on with this vote is taking them off because they're just going, are you kidding me? I do all this and then they cut in the line. And so you got millions of people who know they're breaking the law and they're here anyway. Mm-hmm. We have political leaders who are breaking the law and they're lying to us. Mm-hmm. And that's something that, that has to be addressed. You know, Proverbs 10:9 says, whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but whoever takes crooked paths, they'll be found out. And that's what's happening. I believe the electric. No, I'm saying electric. Why am I saying electric?
The voters.
The voters. Sorry, I'm just messing up. Electoral group.
That's right.
What's interesting about this is that when they have so many people saying, do it this way, and they still continue to say no, like you said, arrogance, hubris makes no sense. They're making false testimony. They're breaking some of the biggest things biblically that you can do.
Right.
And I don't get it other than it's about cheating and it's about illegally trying to get this election moved their way.
The federal government ordered all of the states, not just the blue ones, all 50 states were ordered to surrender their voter registration rolls for review and scrubbing.
Right.
They were going to correct all of the rolls. All the red states complied. All the blue states, to find a point on it, said, no, we're not going to obey you, federal government. Go away. Yeah. So much for we're the party of law and order. Well, unless they don't like the law or they don't care for the particular order, then they ignore it. They disobey.
So what do we do? Here we are. We have folks that want to be compassionate to people, right? And sometimes that skews into codependency, people pleasing, and not speaking the truth because yes, you want to have compassion for people, and we're supposed to show that. But part of the compassion is speaking truth to people and saying, hey, this is wrong, right?
Well, compassion for who?
Correct.
You know,
compassion for only one group of people.
Well, you know, I think if you're going to have compassion, your citizens ought to be the first on the list.
Absolutely.
And then if you can help some of these other people that are coming here for whatever, if they're true asylum seekers or whatever, that just gets into a whole other part of that flooding the border thing. You know, are these people really legitimate asylum seekers? Are they really being persecuted, et cetera, et cetera? You know, if there's a certain amount of people in the world that are probably qualified or tick that box. You mentioned earlier, there's already we let 1 million people a year immigrate to this country legally. Yes. So it's not like we just shut the doors and don't let anybody in. So we just want to know who's coming through the door. And, you know, we don't want to let in a bunch of criminals or whatever. And I'm not saying everybody that came over the border during the Biden administration was a criminal, but we don't.
I'm saying that they broke the law.
Well, true.
So you're talking violent criminal.
Yeah, like a murder, rape,
yeah,
etc.
No, I'm not saying that either.
Yeah,
I'm saying they did break the law.
And that's one of the arguments the other side throws at is, well, they're not all criminals, and everybody's thinking murder, robbery, big, felonies.
Yes.
But you're right. The fact that they entered the country illegally, they broke the law.
They broke the law.
And now I
break the law, I'm going to get in trouble.
What ICE and DHS tells them is if you leave, you can then apply
Correct.
and come to come back. But if we have to go find you and deport you,
never to come
forget
back.
it.
If you've
You're
got
done.
a removal order that a judge has signed off on,
well, and of course we have
but
millions
those
here.
are the ones that the opposition party is all frantic over, is the fact that these people have removal orders. That means they are either substantially violent criminals in their country of origin or in this country.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, and I know, and that's where the compassion is. Well, what about the person who crossed the border and they're trying to do the best for their family, but they're on welfare, and that's a large group of people right now that are, I mean, way too big for this thing to be sustainable. And you're going to have to speak the truth to somebody and say, this doesn't work. Nope. This doesn't work. And we need to get those who have broke the law, and everyone who crossed this border without going through the system broke the law. And that group needs to move out, and then we can work through the process and see if there's productivity there too. If they're just coming here just to get a free ride, then that's laziness. It has nothing to do with Scripture. We don't want to do that.
If they're really sincere about wanting to be in this country, they need to register their presence here with the authorities, and they need to demonstrate that they are actively pursuing the citizenship process. Yes. But if they're hiding and working under somebody else's Social Security number, and they're just doing everything they can to exist in this country illegally, then I have trouble being sympathetic.
Well, in the biblical side of it, we need to be as church leaders, we need to be biblical when it comes just to the welfare of where our people live. So like in Jeremiah 29:7 says, seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you into exile. So of course the people of Jerusalem were sent all over the place, all through Babylon, right? And he said, now take care of the welfare of wherever you're at, and take care of that. Be a part of it. Make sure you're doing good for that area. And what we're saying here is that we need to get the church to start standing up for doing that kind of stuff, looking for the welfare of the community. And when you have a bunch of people who have come here illegally and have now been on our tax rolls, meaning they're not giving taxes, but they're sure taking a lot of free stuff, that has skyrocketed our medical world. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but my insurance skyrocketed after the Obamacare started. I mean, it skyrocketed right after that came into. I couldn't believe how fast our insurance skyrocketed. Our car insurance skyrockets when you have so many people that are illegal here.
Unlicensed and uninsured drivers.
Tanya got hit by a guy like that, and she almost was killed in a parking lot. Got hit by a guy while she was walking. Nothing happened. We had to pay for everything.
Wow. Yeah.
So we've ran into this personally, and it's not just an uncommon thing. So we need to take care of the welfare and pray to the Lord on its behalf. Pray for our nation. For its welfare, you are responsible for the welfare where you're at. We need to be praying for this nation, praying for the leaders, praying for people to follow the law. And when we don't do that, we're at fault too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that speaks to God's justice, right? One of God's attributes is He's a God of justice.
Yes.
And is it? They like to talk about, well, that's not fair, and fairness and equity and DEI and all that stuff. It's like, well, is it fair for some people to just walk in, no paperwork, don't follow the process, sign up for Medicare or Medicaid, food stamps or whatever they call it now, EBT cards, free hotels, Obama phones, etc.
Free college education.
Yeah, exactly. Or they just go into the school system and then, they take up seats in schools and nobody paid into the school taxes.
Correct.
Look at your property tax bill every year. Look how much goes to school taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So is that just? Is that fair?
No, and not at all.
No. So, and again, I don't know how the leadership on that side sells it to their constituency. We'll see in the midterms. They're telling us that in the midterms, some of the talking heads in the various news programs that the Republicans are going to get shellacked, that they're going to lose seats, and basically the Senate and the House are going to flip, and we'll see. But I mean, according to these numbers on this particular act, the people are not with the leaders.
Well, if this doesn't pass, then yes, that could happen. Because if you have 20,000 or 20 million people who are illegally here and they're voting, that could easily flip over. And that's why the Save America Act is so important to get the election where it needs to be. And if Republicans lose when this is set up, I'm good with that, because that tells me I gotta do a lot better job of teaching people around me what these people biblically stand for. Right. And I'm okay because I know the election was not tainted. But boy, if we go through this election and we lose, well,
it's going to be Maricopa County nationwide. It's going to be Palm Beach County nationwide. Hey, at 3 a.m., we found 84,000 votes that we didn't know we had, and every single one of them is for the Democrat.
Fulton
come
County,
on. They
Fulton
think we're
County,
stupid.
Georgia, same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah,
I lived a good
Fulton
part of my
County,
life in Georgia. It is not a blue state.
No, not at all.
Fulton County is a blue county.
Yes.
And that's about it. Maybe DeKalb, maybe one or two others. But yeah, no, it's obvious.
But basically on this kind of stuff, when you have people lying about this, which is what you have right now, you have politicians lying.
Sure.
Now, boy, that's shocker on both sides, right? And we all can lie at times. As human beings, that happens. White lies, little things. I get that. We can get in that argument. But we're talking about blatant I am going to lie to you, and I'm going to do the opposite of what you have sent me to Washington to do. Proverbs 12:22, the Lord detests lying lips. He delights in people who are trustworthy. Exodus 20:16, you should not give false testimony against your neighbor. It's hilarious to hear some of these politicians and what they say and how they attack, saying that you're back to Jim Crow 2.0, and it was the Democrats who were the big Jim Crow people. Right?
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with the Jim Crow anything. It's actually everyone is wanting this to happen. But for some reason, these Democrats, because they want to cheat in the election. That's it. Let's stop saying for whatever reason. I should stop that in my own vocabulary. It's because they want to cheat in the election. Otherwise, they would go for this because they would have nothing to worry about. Let's get free elections or fair elections.
Well, one of their arguments against it is that, there's not really that many non-citizens that vote. And it's like, well, how do we know? How do we know that when your states will not even give up the voting records to go through them and vet them? Yeah. So
and that's a problem.
So prove it. Well, I shared this with you guys yesterday. This is a person I follow on X. Her name is Data Republican, so everybody's going to immediately write it off. But what she talks about is the Democrat Party has an international arm called the National Democrat Institute, the NDI.
NDI, yeah.
It's funded with $181 million a year in U.S. tax dollars. So that's one of those NGOs that we should not be spending a nickel on. But anyway, they have said for 40 years, the NDI has told every developing country on earth that voter ID is essential for election integrity. So not only, so their side is preaching this to the rest of the world, but they don't want to live it in their own country. They don't want to hear
because they know they'll lose power.
Yeah, they don't want to live.
I thought it was what's good for the goose is good for the gander, but obviously that's not true.
No, it's do as I say, not as I do. And again, we're back to the hypocrisy and the hubris and all of that. And what is the real underlying intent of why they get up there and grandstand and, as you say, clutch their pearls and all that, and they're horrified about all the injustices. They don't care about any of that.
No, they don't.
Well, I'm sorry, I don't believe
it's all political
the human condition is power. And that's Republican and Democrat power. But we have to have fair elections. We have to have fair elections because then, as I said, if we have fair elections and everybody knows that its citizens are voting, and let's say in California, which may happen, that the governor becomes a Republican.
Yeah, they're very close to
which is very close for that happening. Hilton is doing very well. But there's no way, I don't see how any way he can win that election if they don't have the SAVE Act in. Because you're going to have millions of people voting that are not citizens of the United States.
Yeah.
I mean, that's gone on in California a long time. It's a one-party state. I come from that state. I remember when my parents told me, yeah, there we go, that that Ronald Reagan was the governor of California at one time, right? And so it's interesting to see that that's why this is so important. I think this is the most important legislation. I can't remember a more important legislation than this. I can't.
Well, if we don't have secure elections, we really don't have a country.
No.
Because one side's playing by the rules and expecting it to be a fair election. The other side's like, well, what do we got to do to win? That's essentially it. There are no rules. It's the end justifies the means.
Right. So if anybody watches this that's involved with the Democratic Party, please contact your senators. If you're in this state, it's Republican senators. So
too.
And those two are for this act, very much for it. But if you come from a different state, would you please call your senator and tell them what you want, just like what we want, which is fair elections. Because after Trump won this last time around, you had a lot of Democrats saying that was obviously he cheated. Obviously he cheated. Well, yeah, you could say that when you don't believe the elections are set up right on either side. So instead of letting George Soros, who just really wants to destroy.
He wants to destroy this country.
This country because he wants to have total chaos, really, and he wants to have more of a socialist communist mindset.
Right.
Except for him,
of course.
Now he doesn't. He wants that for everybody else, and he wants to keep his money and power. Right.
Yes.
So, would you please consider contacting your people, the people that are in the Democratic Party? They're not going to listen to us, but they will listen to maybe someone like you. And let's get fair elections going here. This should be 100%. We should have 100% in the House and 100% in the Senate. All of us agreeing, let's have fair elections and get this done. And if somebody struggles, here's something we could do. If someone is struggling to get an ID and they are a citizen, let's help them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, if there are 3 Democrat ladies over here who I don't know how to get an ID, I'm a Republican. I'll go help them.
Sure.
Just to make the thing fair and get them. But I'm not going to help someone over here saying, I want to vote, but I'm not a citizen. Yeah, that's why we're doing this. So you can't vote. Right. And so there should be also that side of it, that if there is Uncle Bob over here or, Aunt Judy over here that just doesn't have the smarts enough to find out how to get their ID done, even though they're citizens, we need to help them get that done. Right. And then they can vote the way they want to. And even if they're voting without really looking at it, hey, they're citizens. They have the right to do that.
Yeah.
And so for me, I think that's the way to go. So I'm hoping if you're a Democrat who's watching this, please, we're encouraging you. We're all, the 3 of us are Republicans. I mean, we come from a place that we want biblical truth. We're not saying that Donald Trump is some, preacher. That's for sure. Not saying that. But the platform of the Republican Party fit closer to a biblical worldview. Life, marriage, sexual sin, not to have that just running wild within our kids and that kind of thing. Try to reduce the government and try to be fiscal responsibility, even though our Republicans haven't done that, which gets me irritated at times.
Yeah, we could spend a lot of time on what they're not getting right either.
As a matter of fact, we may need to do that.
Yes, we could.
Just to say a biblical side of this thing. But right now, we need to get this thing passed.
Yes.
And we need our senators to do what they need to do, and that's Republican and Democrat senators, to vote for this thing, get it passed, and let's get moving so we can all go into this national election that's coming in, in November, that we can all feel good about the election. Right. And then any presidential election, anything like that, we could feel good about it because now, hey, you lose. That means you need to do something different, right?
Yeah.
You need to look at your platform. Does it really fit for people? Whatever, but we need to do that. One thing I wanted to bring up was Proverbs 6:16 through 19. And Mark, if you have anything else, we'll give that to you. It says, there are 6 things the Lord hates, 7 that are detestable to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood. I'm going to get straightforward: abortion, a heart that devises wicked schemes, lying about this act and having people vote that are not citizens, feet that are quick to rush into evil and to absolutely lie about things, which we're finding on, especially with the Democratic Party right now. It's unbelievable what's going on coming out of their mouth. False witnesses who pour out lies, and a person, listen to this, a person who stirs up conflict in the community. Does that sound pretty darn familiar, what's going on right now? Not in all the Democratic Party, but the ones that are the most vocal right now, that's what it sounds like. Yeah. And if Republicans are doing this, we need to confront that quickly. Mm-hmm. And right now we need to confront what's going on in the Democratic Party. You are leaders, and you guys need to be listening to your constituents, and you're obviously not. And that is wrong. It's lying. It's cheating. And you need to stop it. All right, Mark, anything else when it comes to this, all of this going on?
Yeah, I think my final thought would be it doesn't matter which side of the aisle you're on. If you can't trust the election, how can you possibly feel good about who's in office?
We can't.
You're always going to wonder, it's like, you've heard the Democrats say, "Oh, Trump cheated."
Yeah.
And you've heard the Republicans say Biden cheated. And we know that he did, by the way. There's evidence. There's evidence now that there was votes that just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
The fact is that if an American citizen, I don't care whether you're a Democrat or Republican or an independent, you need to feel confidence in this democracy that your vote was counted. It was only counted once, and everybody else's votes were counted once, and every single vote was from an American citizen.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
Randy, anything else?
I agree with that. Only one thing I would add is there's a site called Polymarkets that puts statistics out and percentages out on games and this and that.
I saw that. Yeah.
And they right now put this at a 9% chance of passing.
Really?
Which is very depressing, because as we've tried to communicate this entire 45 minutes, it really should be a bipartisan issue. It should not be partisan at all.
Absolutely.
And the fact that the wagers, the bookies, side of things are almost 100% opposite of what the polling of the people say. So our elected leadership apparently is not listening to the citizens of this country.
And lastly, for me, is that the disenfranchised, they say that you disenfranchise a number of people from voting if we ask for ID. That can easily be fixed by both the Democrat and Republican Party. Mm-hmm. Go help those people.
Yep.
We can help them. The churches can help them get signed up. And if they're Democrat, I'll sign you up. I just want citizens to vote. And if you nullify my voting, and I helped you do that, that's okay, because you're a citizen. You're voting as a citizen.
And again, that issue comes down to the personal responsibility.
Yes.
The conservatives, we tend to say
just
personal responsibility should be the rule.
Yes.
The Democrats now are saying, well, if this does pass, then the government has to be responsible for vetting everybody. In other words, more government employees. The federal government's going to grow to be able to handle this, which I am strictly not. I'm a states' rights guy.
Right, and it should be that.
I don't believe in growing the federal government. I'm sorry. It's way too big as it is now.
And this is supposed to go back to the states.
Right.
Let's go over that.
The legislation actually pushes that down to the states.
Yes. Yes, it does.
Because the Constitution states that the states are responsible for the elections.
Correct.
Not the federal government.
Yeah, because then the federal government doesn't come in and just force it.
But that doesn't mean that individuals are not responsible for taking care of their own identification.
Yes, exactly. And I totally get that, and I believe that.
I do too.
But just to get this, if this thing gets passed, let's help Aunt Bobby or whatever and Uncle Joe to find, get their ID and get them taken care of, and then you guys go vote and do what you need to do.
And it's not going to matter to me if you're an independent, a Democrat, or a Republican. If you need help.
Yep.
I will help you.
We could do that. And all you have to do is go, please help me.
Mm-hmm.
Go online.
The one thing I would say about voting in or registering independent in this state is you can't vote in a primary.
No,
These are what are called closed primaries. So you either have to be a registered Democrat or Republican to vote
that's for sure.
in the state of Florida in a primary. So if you want to be able to vote in a primary, then you have to pick a party. If you want to just be able to vote in the general election, you don't have to pick a party.
Yeah, you have to do that. So just know that, okay? So the bottom line is, we're very frustrated with what's going on with the SAVE Act. I'm frustrated with some of the Republicans at the SAVE Act. It looks like there's a lot of money that's involved with this thing. And that's always kind of scary too, that people can stay in power if they keep kind of the status quo. We just need to get this election right. And it's scriptural. Boundaries are scriptural. Shouldn't have had this open border. If you break the law, you break the law. It's not like you're a murderer, but you broke the law. So yes, you are now a person who's broke the law. We need to make sure that when someone comes across this border, we say that rather than, oh, no, they really didn't break a law. Yeah, they did. Yes, they did. And if we go to another country and we go in illegally, they're going to think that we broke the law.
Right.
So,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah, try flying to France and saying, hey, I want to vote in your next election.
Yeah, good luck on that.
Yeah, that ain't going to happen.
No.
Bonne chance, as they say.
Bonne chance. But the bottom line is that for us, it's not out of a mean-spirited mindset. It's not about being bigoted. It's about fairness and making sure everybody feels comfortable in election.
That's right.
That's all it is.
Yep.
And we want that. And it's biblical that we need to have that so everyone knows that there's no shadiness going on. All right. With that in mind, anything else?
You got my socks.
Oh, look at that. He's got the USA
I got
socks.
my Support the Blues. Oh, I'm sorry.
Awesome.
Did I just say that? Support the Blue? Yes, my American Stars and Stripes
Love
socks.
it. Love it. And you got your little flags there. We all have flags. And we did not come up with that. That just, all of us wore something different. So, all right, guys, today could be your favorite day. Just look up to God. Keep gazing at Him. Thank you, guys. God bless you all. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Thanks for hanging out with us today. The views and opinions expressed are those of the hosts alone. TIMFD is produced by the awesome Alex Korn. And until next time, have a great day, stay grateful, grounded, and growing in Christ.